right, tonight we got a special guest, Kathy Payne Foulk. And I always call her Kathy T. Payne Foulk, but anyway. She's all into the paranormal. She actually was in a group before she joined HPI, which is Halo Paranormal Investigations. And Kathy, what was the name of the group that you belonged to before? Was Lincoln something or what?
Lincoln Paranormal,
Oh,
and it
okay,
was with Debbie, a friend named Debbie,
Debbie
and
Ball.
my husband, I, um, and we had two other people, Julie and Dawn, that came with us. So we didn't do too much. We had kind of just started it, and then I found you, and you were just really like out there a lot. So it was fun to go. We started following you.
Hey, well, yeah, we had some crazy investigations, but one of the best investigations was actually at your ranch. We had 75 HPI scouts, and scouts are paranormal investigators in training, so they're learning the ropes. And 75 people descended at your ranch, and the ranch is fantastic. I mean, you got all these animals. You had a pet pig named Sage. What a beautiful pig. And all kinds of things happened. People were walking on the trail and they were seeing shadow people darting from across the trail. They Belinda Bentley, celebrity psychic, she came running and got me and said, Paul, um, uh, this psychic medium named Brittany Lance is being choked. And I was thinking, I said, oh, yeah, right. She just probably wants some attention. So I go into the bedroom and I see her. She was, like she's really being choked. I snap a photo, and sure enough, there's this huge orb covering her, a huge orb. And it's like something was actually happening to Brittany. So it was just amazing. Can you, how, Kathy, how did you get into the paranormal? What made you get start up on that?
I've just always been very interested in it. Um, I'm not one that can see ghosts or talk to them, but I've always been very interested. So I've always, gone out there and tried to go to investigations and find proof. Um, Ranch, she also mentioned when she was here about a cowboy. And we've always had some things happening here, but nothing really big. I've never felt anything negative. It's never done anything negative to our family. But I do have friends that won't stay here when we're gone and watch the house. But she mentioned a cowboy. And that day, my son's face kind of turned white. He had never told me, but he had woke up one night and there was like a cowboy at the end of his bed and it crawled up onto his bed and over him. And he said he threw the covers up over his head. So that was really interesting that she came up with the cowboy. There was an old uh, actual city or town, should I say, that was on this ranch. And this was my family's owned it for 150 years. So it was prior to that. And it was called Danville. And so I guess there was some killings and things like that. And it was obviously a cowboy town. So I don't think he necessarily, if he's still here, I don't know. I haven't really had a whole lot lately, but I think if the cowboy came from that era.
So your family would have gotten the ranch in it was the 1880s, 1890s. So it's post gold rush, but before the turn of the last century.
Yes.
What kind of ranch was it? What did your family do? Were they cattle or?
Yeah. Yes. They were big land people. So this is one of two. And this one's about 160 acres. And so on the end of it, at the cross, I know we've found a lot of Native American uh, things on the ranch. We found arrowheads. There are rocks with, holes. They've ground acorns in the rocks.
Grinding stones.
Was Wells Fargo um, went on your land back in the 1800s? And if I remember right, there was some rocks that had um, where they were taking acorns and crushing them in
Yes.
the holes in the rocks. Am I right about that?
Yes. Yeah, we actually have several of them. So we have some on different areas of the ranch.
And didn't Wells Fargo go through your ranch?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure. I've tried to research the town. I know that there was a big robbery and people were killed, cowboys were killed. So, but that's all that I really can find on Danville.
Hmm.
Are
Interesting.
there a lot of black walnut on your property?
Blue oaks.
You mostly blue oak.
That,
There's got to be water on the property too, right?
yeah, we have a year-round creek that runs through our backyard, kind of, and we also have a large pond. It's probably a couple football sizes big, but the creek has been here. From what I understand, though, the water used to go north and south. Now it's going east and west. So
It just
we have
seems
a
like
lot of fields of where they used to camp for gold. The gold miners came in and they would dig.
yeah. It sounds to me like before the gold miners, it was kind of like a good location for maybe a village, something small. I mean, if everybody needs water, and then a lot of people don't realize 80% of the Native Americans' diet in California were acorns. They make acorn bread, but the real prize were the black walnut, which are hard to get, but they're delicious. Whereas acorn bread is really dry.
And we have a lot of acorns out here. But yes, the water was there. So, and the rocks, there's a really huge rock with lots of them in there. I guess the different sizes of the holes in the rocks depended on how old. It was like the older ladies in the Native American had the bigger size. And so they each one would get start a new spot. And so one has several on it. It has probably 8 on it.
Do you know if they were Maidu, if it was the Maidu tribe on your property, or was it I love it was Maidu. Have you ever seen any Native American spirits? I mean, your son saw the cowboys. Has there been
Yep. Heard.
Wait, I'm gonna break in on this one because when we were doing our investigation, some of the scouts were hearing chanting in the forest, and they were also hearing drum beats in the forest.
We have had that. It's more over by the water, especially where that rock, that one big rock is. So from the house, the pond's probably quarter mile away. And over in that area, you can't see it from the house, but you can hear, we've heard it before.
Kathy, that brings me to two things. I don't, our audience, for those who don't know Kathy, I like to say personally that you said earlier in the show that you don't have a talent to speak or see ghosts, but one talent I know that you do have, and that's honesty. All the investigations that we've been on, you have a really crystal clear vibe. So if somebody asks you what you have seen, it's the truth. It's exactly what it is. And I've been out there with you and your husband, and that's one thing I remember about you too. So it'd be interesting if we could ask you the right question because it'll be an honest answer. So that's what our audience doesn't know about Kathy. That's her talent. And with that being said, I'd like to ask you, with all that gold and different things associated with your properties and the different timings, have you seen any UFOs out there?
My husband swears he did. I supposedly we're in the triangle.
Okay.
Yeah, you are. You are.
Night and said he saw something weird up there.
Okay.
But we, from what I
Foulk.
understand, we're also real close to Beale, so we do get a bunch of
Okay.
flagships.
Yeah, she's in the Gold Country UFO Triangle, and that name was coined by Bill Burns, who was the editor of UFO. Yeah, Bill Burns, who was an editor of UFO magazine, and he was on History Channel's UFO Hunters.
What happened to that guy, man? He had a good UFO show. He just like gave up, or did they
No,
burn him
no,
out, or what happened?
no. The History Channel nixed it. They didn't have enough views, so they just cut it off. But Bill Burns is still around. I mean, you can
Yeah,
see him on the Unexplained, and you can see him sometimes on Ancient Aliens.
but he's not doing his real thing, man. He's doing other stuff. He knows that UFO stuff. That's too bad. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, Kathy, I'm sure. Like, yeah, I believe your husband.
Yeah, and he's a skeptic on all of it. But
I
Paul,
know.
the real haunting actually came after we went. I mean, we had things happening, but it wasn't enough that you were like so aware. I mean, you would put
Yeah.
something down, it might be missing. But we went on an investigation with you, and we went to a hotel. And on the way home, we stopped at the Preston Castle. Me and Debbie,
Okay.
one other person. I brought something home from there. And from that
Now,
night, huh?
so not a souvenir, I take it.
No.
Yeah.
I
Or like the
You're not talking
unwanted
about,
passenger.
Kathy, you're not talking about an ashtray?
A barnacle,
yes.
ashtray.
You took you took some bath towels. Okay, okay. No, I'm just teasing you, Kathy. Go ahead.
But I got home that night very, very, very late, and I fell asleep on the couch. And my husband tried to wake me up and said, "Come to bed." And I stayed out there, and I felt it dead asleep. And all of a sudden, the couch got like something knocked the couch 3 times. And I woke up, and I kind of looked around. I had my big German Shepherd on the ground, so I thought maybe he bumped the couch. So I put my head back down, and again, it happened again. And from that point on, we had so much stuff going on. We had things being moved. My favorite one is I have these bright green slippers, and I always keep them next to the bed. And one morning they weren't there, and I was asking my boys, I was asking, "Where's my green slippers?" They were my favorite. And probably about 3 weeks later, my middle son came into the bedroom in the morning and said, "Mom, I found your green slippers." I said, "Where did you find them?" He said, "They were in my bed this morning when I woke up." So they had gotten in his bed 3 weeks later. It just
Wow.
things like that. I'd go to open my
Wow.
son's door and it would just open. And I thought, "Oh, good, you're awake." And he was in his bed. He hadn't opened the door. So we had a lot of stuff going on for about probably 6 months. And then one day it just left. So they,
That was
So
after we did the investigations, like after all that time.
so
Yes.
they,
Yeah, because we should have come back out to your property at that
I
time.
know.
That, yeah, I wish we would have.
We were kind of like, "Is this really happening?" And then, like, my German Shepherd would be laying on the ground, he'd just look up at the wall and start growling. And finally, my
Oh.
husband was kind of starting to think, "Okay, maybe there is something going on here." Or I had pine cones up on the fireplace, and one would just fly off. So then
And
Yeah, he's pretty skeptical. If he said that, it might
he
you
is.
guys felt something, huh? Yeah.
he has an answer for everything. But like, I'd wake up in the morning and all the pictures on this one table I had in the hallway would be turned around. So that
Wow.
was just really, but I didn't feel threatened. It didn't seem like anything mean. But, and like I was saying, I can't see ghosts or talk to them, but I can sense when there's something around. And one day I came in and I had gone out for a jog. I came home, walked in the door, and the minute I walked in the door, I thought it's gone. So it left as fast as it came.
You say you saw the paintings flipped around?
Yeah.
Yeah, see that type of stuff. What do you think
Pictures.
about that, Phil? When you see what like orbs and things are one other thing, but stuff like that, that's like Skinwalker Ranch type stuff.
It's poltergeist activity. It's also just mischievous. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem like it's something she's not particularly out to cause harm, but meant to get your attention. So I don't really know. And it's interesting that it followed you home from that place, stayed a while, and then it was like, all right, the visit's over, time to go.
So I kind of challenged when I was there. It's like, hey, I've never seen a ghost. Prove to me you're real. Do something. So,
What? Stop.
Yeah. And it was here for a while. I mean, there were several things that were going on in the house. Like, I would come out the kitchen and there'd be like flowers on the kitchen in the middle. I have a big island. It was sitting right there. I was like, who put that there? And I'd ask my husband and my boys, and none of them had done it. And I realized it had come from on top of the fridge. I had a big plant thing up there. That's where it came from. So it was moved from the refrigerator to the counter.
I trust
Kathy,
I love hearing about that.
Kathy, how did the animals react to the paranormal activity?
My German Shepherd was very aware. He seemed to he was always on edge, but that one morning he just sat there and stared at nothing on the wall and just growled for like 5 minutes. That's when my husband was like, I'm like, see, I'm telling you, there's something in the house. But as far as the other stuff, like before that, friends would come over to stay and watch the house. So when we leave, because we have a lot of animals, we have chickens, and at the time we had a couple cows, and one of them was here late at night and was spending the night, and she said she was just sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden her glass on the table just fell over and rolled. And she left, and she said, I will never stay at your house at night. There was no reason.
You left?
But whatever is here now doesn't live in the house, but seems to not like people that stay here when we're not home.
Kathy, I'm sorry, Phil. Go ahead, Phil.
There's a series that I think I watched a couple of months ago on I think it's on Amazon Prime with Josh Brolin called Outer Range.
So
have you seen that?
No.
You might want to check it out. It's interesting. It's about a ranch, kind of like yours, but I believe it's in Wyoming. But there are some scenes where, like, out of nowhere, a buffalo comes running across the property, and there'd been no buffalo in Wyoming, since the late 1800s kind of thing. So I was just wondering, have you seen any like ghost bison or ghost elk or anything on the property that just you can't explain it? I know there's not supposed to be wolves in California, but anything tracks, anything like that.
No, I don't. I can tell you, my one son, the same one that saw the cowboy, he used to sneak out at night. He was, young and did dumb things. He was smoking. So he was in high school, so he had to sneak. So, well, he was actually probably a little younger, but he said my cousins, they were staying over at a house next to us. It's a ways away, but it was next to us. And Janie, they're kind of like my aunt. She was older, but he walked out there away from the house, and he said it was a really foggy night, and he saw her way out on the ranch, just standing there, like she was in a trance. And he said Janie, and she didn't answer him. So they said she just stood there, like staring out, and then she turned around and then walked back. And this was in the middle of the night. So they said it really creeped him out. He had no idea what was wrong with her. But I've never seen that. But he said, I don't sneak out at 1 o'clock in the morning either. So, but he said it was really foggy. It was kind of a weird night. And she was just standing out there on the middle of the ranch, just staring off to the distance. So
it was funny that Phil mentions wolves in California.
The light just went off.
Yeah, because I used. Oh yeah.
No, my light just went off.
I know. I saw that, Kathy.
Do 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 do.
Oh no, it's funny that Phil mentioned wolves in California because
all the way over by the door.
Kathy.
What?
You got some paranormal activity going on over there, or what?
The light just completely turned itself off.
Oh my God! They probably want me to shut my mouth.
No, you
But
know, Kathy, before that happened, I was just gonna say to you, now that you're talking about it,
So
more stuff is gonna happen. But I didn't get a chance to say it because Phil said something about the wolves in California, and I was gonna tell him, hey, somebody that grew up in the concrete jungle in the inner city, when I got to the mountains, man, I thought the coyote were wolf. So you can't tell me it's not wolf in California.
We have
Just
a
the
lot
same
of
thing.
those out
listen, listen, you guys, about the wolves in California. I used to work for California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and there was a wolf named Journey and her mate, and they came into California. And as of 2023, there is now 7 known wolf packs in California.
I've never seen a real wolf in person. Well, that makes sense because they're very loyal to their mates. The women, they have a ritual. You can't become their mate unless you're like tried and true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also too, I have I have some animals buried in my yard. They died of natural causes, whatever. But I have Hype, I have Hannah, and I have Story, and they're buried here in my yard. And I have seen all 3 dogs in this house. Animal
Wow.
spirits do exist, and Kathy had a beautiful, beautiful pig. I don't know, Zandine, if you ever saw it, but it was named Sage, and it passed
the
away.
light just came back on.
Do
No,
you
I
do you see Sage ever
C-
on your property as a
And can has Sage ever turned the lights off and on when she was with you?
No, she couldn't reach him. She was kind of short and fat.
Kathy? You never
No,
see?
I have not.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh my God. Hey, I hope yeah, I hope Sage comes back. I like Sage. And
yeah.
also, Kathy used to throw some really, really good parties, and her brother. What song did he always sing? And it got everybody going.
Yeah, it was like the rap song.
and and it was some of the people at the party. They would come up to me and they go, "Paul, I just saw something move," or "Paul, I just saw something go into the bedroom." You know, there was always something that people saw at your place at the ranch, even during a party.
It was people that I don't know, when people come for some reason, it does show up. When we're home, once in a while, like my
Daughter-in-law.
they live here. And so me and her, once in a while, we have like I'll put something down and then I'll go do something, come back and it's like not there and thinking, I know I just put it there. So it seems like things are always moving. Or what happened? There was something that happened the other day. So
To her.
they, I don't think that
So
is weird. So, I mean, like little things. I don't feel like there's any kind of evil presence. For a little while, I used to be a witch. I practiced witchcraft.
Wicca?
Not necessarily. I was more collective. But now we're like a mixture. We did everything. Did
Yeah. You said the property's been in your family for like 150 years. Are there any legends or great stories from your parents or your grandparents about the property?
my parents, but they didn't talk a lot about arrows. Housefood.
We had I grew up in New Jersey, so we always heard stories about the New Jersey Devil. And when I was in the Marine Corps in combat training, there was the story about the Lizard Man that was down there in North Carolina. So I was just wondering if there's any type of urban legends from your area.
Kathy, didn't you have some kind of outlaw or something like that on your property?
Juan Murrieta?
No, why? Well, that's one's territory too. I mean, yeah, he could have very well been on her property. But there was another one. Do you remember which one that was, Kathy?
No. So
We
they
now
have a cemetery across the street.
Oh, okay, okay.
Parents,
That's interesting.
yeah.
And what other investigations did you do before HPI, when you were with the Lincoln one, or with HPI?
We went to Virginia City
Oh,
once.
yeah. Okay.
We had a ton of activity in the War Show Club.
Tell us about that one.
That was just crazy. Our meters were just going crazy. And then there was a part when all us girls, there was like four of us, decided to go up by ourselves. And as we were all in a line, and the one in front, all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, but it was a huge growl, and then it sounded like a bang, but a loud clap. And then she screamed and was running backwards, and I was at the very end, so I'm pushing her forward because I want to see what's happening. And the one girl in the second girl ended up falling, but it was the loudest growl I have ever heard. So then, what else happened there? We had so much going on there. The guys were down below. They got some really good pictures of it. Looks like so those. It was just a night of. It seemed like it was constant, especially with the meters and all of that. They were just all the way. You know, like usually sometimes it'll go up the red. You know, what is that meter? The so they, Paul, where it will detect if there's something there. It goes from green to orange to red.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. EMF readers.
Yes. And it was in the red, and it stayed there and just blinked in the red as the most powerful I've ever seen. Usually I barely get anything. It did it for at least 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Kathy, I got something for Phil. Okay, Phil was saying, is there any legends or something like that? Well, here's the story about the investigation at Kathy's ranch. And this is what I said. It says, also, Kathy and Steve live in a UFO hotspot, according to Bill Burns, ufologist, that refers to the area as the Gold Country Triangle. Dwayne Hines, who once lived in Lincoln, says that the area of Gladding Road, he and his two friends encountered a strange bipedal creature with long legs and a tiny head that is similar to the Fresno nightcrawler. Dwayne encountered this creature in 1987. Dwayne now lives in Nevada. I will call this creature the Lincoln Nightcrawler. Kathy says that one time her green slippers went missing for a month and somehow miraculously reappeared in her son's bed. Pine cones have been tossed around by an unseen force. One of Kathy's girlfriends received scratches on her back. The scratches came from something unseen. Kathy and Steve moved in the house in 1998. Steve says that the house is not haunted, the property is haunted. Kathy states another time a water bottle flew across the air from the bathroom and to the bedroom and scared her girlfriend. Entity identified the Lincoln Nightcrawler.
That's right. That was one of the things that it did. She spent the night, and she's terrified of that stuff, so she didn't want anything to do with it. But she took her daughter into the bathroom, and she was probably only 2 at the time, maybe 3, and she had her on the toilet, and it wasn't a water bottle, it was a can that I had, like an old can on the counter in the hallway, and it literally flew across the bathroom door, like in front of it, right across it, and it hit the bedroom door. And it rolled into the bedroom door. It hit the ground and rolled. And she came running out with her daughter, still pants down. And she was terrified. She left. She didn't, she didn't come back for a while. But she was also the one that got scratched. And then actually one time I opened the back door. They were over. We were barbecuing. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw something black go by, like fly by. And I thought, what was that? I thought a bird flew in when I opened the door. And so I went around into the dining room, And I'm thinking, how am I going to get the bird out of the house? And I'm looking around and I look up and I see a pair of sunglasses sitting up high on top. There's kind of like a huge shelf closer to the ceiling. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, please be dusty, like they've been there a while. That was not a pair of sunglasses. It was her sunglasses. It was the sunglasses that were on the counter. That's what I saw the corner of my eye fly by. And it flew from the kitchen counter all the way up, high up towards the ceiling onto a shelf that's up there. So that was another thing with her. And then one more with her. I was here one morning getting ready for work. This one scared me. Whatever this was not okay. It wasn't something that I was not afraid of. I was afraid of whatever it was. I heard something in the kitchen. And so no one was home. I was by myself. And I went out into the kitchen. And next to the sink, I had a little thing hanging. I had a little wooden doll sitting on top of it. Just a little one. It was kind of a creepy little doll. And that thing was swinging, and the little doll had fallen off and was all the way on the other side of the counter in front of the microwave. And I'm thinking, uh-oh. So I called my girlfriend, same one, and I said, talk to me while I'm getting ready. I got to go to work, but there's something going on. And I told her what happened. It kind of freaked me out. I don't know. I got a bad feeling. Usually I don't. So as I'm on the phone with her, I kept hearing a voice. It was, I can't even describe it. It was this deep, scary, raspy, and it wasn't saying anything. It was just, I could hear it like breathing. It gives me the chills thinking about it. And so I listened for a while and I'm thinking, now I'm getting more scared because now I'm in the house that something just happened. I'm talking to her and I asked her, do you hear that? And she's like, I do. And I swear to you, it said clearly, it was in a whisper though. It was like, and that's what it said. I'm watching you. So in my car, he left. I thought, okay, I'm out. And so I just grabbed my stuff and left. That was the one thing that one scared me.
Where was that at?
I don't know what it was. Huh?
Where did that happen?
I was on the phone though. The voice was in the phone.
Oh.
But whatever was here, so they knocked that doll. My son hated that doll so much when I told him that he burned it. But it was just this little doll and it had thrown across the counter. And I guess when there's no way it just fell off. So they didn't have cats at the time. So it was just walking back and forth when I walked in there, and I was like looking at it because I went in there to see what I heard it, and it was moving back and forth. And then I looked and saw the doll across the counter, and that's when I called my friend, said, "Talk to me while I finish getting ready before I leave." And that voice was in the phone conversation. She heard the voice too, and it said, "I'm watching you." But it was.
I was going to ask you what was the scariest experience, but I mean, you pretty much, that was it, huh?
The voice, I can't. It just makes me just think remembering that voice because it was breathing and I could hear it like in the phone, and I kept thinking, "Am I hearing that?" It wasn't saying anything. It was just making like these really weird noises. And finally, I'm like, "Do you hear that?" And that's when it said, "I'm watching you." But it was in this low whispery, and that scared me.
Hey, Zandine, you were asking about the UFO activity over in Lincoln. Well, this is what Kathy's husband, Steve Foulk, says. Steve was talking about how his wife, Kathy, has seen dark silhouettes or dark outlines around the house.
Yeah.
Steve witnessed a can fly across the room. Steve once experienced an entity moving his tools while he was working on the house. There was a big ceramic rooster on the top of the cabinet, and one day it was moved to the counter, and no one knows how the rooster got to the counter. Steve once felt like he was being held tightly to the bed. He couldn't move. It was a form of sleep paralysis. As for UFOs, their is close to Beale Air Force Base, and they do see a lot of strange activity in the air. It's mostly military. Steve sometimes sees abnormal light activity in the night sky, like a certain light that stays in one spot and blinks at regular intervals, but stays in the same location. Steve talks about how his son Kyle once was holding a teddy bear and it flew out of his arms.
You know, see, two things about that. Two things. When objects start flying, I mean, that's where I draw the line. Like, you can witness poltergeist, you can see stuff, but when there's objects, sharp ones, things that fly, that's, it gets dangerous, of course. Another thing, when you said, Kathy, about the phone call with the voice, I know a certain actor in Los Angeles that a story he told me that he swears by, and his family said they backed him up. On Thanksgiving, he was on the phone, and he told me the story. He said the guy that passed reminded me of him. I reminded him of that person, but he said that he called on Thanksgiving, and the sister said, "Hey, it's him on the phone," and he thought that was odd because, and I'll tell you why. He got on the phone, and he said that it said, "Hey," he said his name. "Can you help me, man? I need your help." And then he said he heard these voices in the background. He said, "I need it." And this guy, his friend had already passed 2 years before. So the sister recognized the voice. The mother recognized the voice. He put it on speaker because they were doing a dinner and they all heard the voices as well. So the story's not the same, but
there was another time that same voice, in fact, Steve, because he's the one that doesn't believe anything. I was talking to Shanna again, same girl. And at first it sounded like a radio, like a cop car radio, but it was like, different stations going all over.
Okay.
And then the voice came on, the breathing. It wasn't saying anything, it was just the breathing. I'm like, there it is again. And I went and got Steve, and Steve kept insisting it was Shanna doing it. And I'm like, I don't think it was her. Shelly and her were talking the first time.
Right.
I kept hearing it in the background. And so I went and got him. I said, that voice is on here again. And he made Shanna count. He made her count from 1 to 10 or 20. So while it was in the background to prove it wasn't her.
Oh, wow.
She counted.
That's interesting.
It didn't say anything that time. It was just that weird, deep, scary breathing.
Steve wasn't playing, huh? Steve wasn't messing around, huh?
No, count from 1 to 10.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Nice.
My son grew up in Lincoln. He lived in my ex-wife still lives out there. They have a house in towards the end of the old part of town, about 3 or 4 blocks from Gladding McBean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so always heard the train.
Right past.
Well, Gladding McBean made like some of the sconces and the stuff that decorates the Capitol building. Yeah. They've been around that long that they made those pieces for the Capitol.
Every single building in the entire United States, probably the world, and that if a piece breaks off, like of a large old building, they're the only ones that can mold. And that place is absolutely, it looks a mess from the outside. But I used to be on the board of the Lincoln Arts, and every year we put on a big deal there, the Feats of Clay. And in there is the most amazing place I've ever seen. It has some of the oldest molds and clay. And my dad actually worked there when he was in high school.
I've only ever been in there once, and it was to repair their computers. I've been doing IT for like 30 years now, but at one time I actually was called out there to fix some of their systems, and everything they had a pound of sand in it. It was just covered. Computers have fans in the back of them, so they suck in nothing but dust. And everything they had, you opened up the box, and it was just like a pound of dirt inside of it. It's dirtiest place I've been.
Yeah.
But neat.
Well, there's areas of it that are just amazing. You walk through these rooms, You go up in this elevator and you walk through these rooms that are just amazingly full of art that people came from all over the place, all over the United States for the feats of clay. This art was very different, but
It's,
it is
it's
a
it's changed a lot. First time I was out there was in early 1990s, and then from then they changed the road to where, like, the last time I went out there, just maybe like 5 years ago, I got lost going out there. I'm like, what happened to the one long road that just you end up in town? It's like, oh no, now you gotta shoot this way and shoot that way. It's, yeah, amazing how it's changed.
yes, Lincoln's
Kathy, how do your kids feel about the activity, or how's it affecting them, or how they see it affect you?
It affects my middle one the most.
Okay.
he he's had a few. He's the one that found my slippers in his bed, and
Okay.
then he's had some things happen where, like, he'd be sleeping. He had his pillow, and they had kind of this the bed, the backboard to the bed had like little shelves kind of there, and he would wake up, and he was the one also that got the teddy bear ripped out of his hand. But his pillow would be completely stuffed. Like, it didn't just move up over there. It was completely stuffed in the top part of his bed when he'd wake up in the morning. And so he's very scared of all. He actually, to this day, that's Kyle, Paul. He won't sleep in a room. He always sleeps on, he slept on the couch for the rest of his time here. He owns his own home. And if you ask his roommates, he sleeps on a couch. He's terrified. He's
Yeah,
never.
that's real. That's real trauma.
The youngest one is the one that saw the cowboy. And he's also the one I walked in the hallway to go wake him up for school. And the door it was kind of a sticky door, but not terrible sticky. But I reached down to
Okay.
touch the handle, and the door turned and opened. And I said, oh, good, you're awake. And I looked, and he was in his bed across the other side of the room. So it wasn't him that opened the door. But he doesn't seem too bothered by that stuff.
Kathy, in the article, it says Sally Johnston interview.
Yes.
It's on this day, 5/5/2018, Sally came across an apparition of an elderly Native American Indian wearing a bear skin and running quickly. Sally has also one time witnessed a cowboy entity. Sally says that Kathy's late father protected her from the cowboy. Kathy verified that Sally saw her deceased father. Strange tapping sounds are heard in the bathroom, and on this night, all of the investigators witnessed the tapping sounds. Sally once witnessed the bedroom door closed by itself, and the entities identified the bearskin Indian, the gladding cowboy, and Kathy's father.
Yeah, she said she saw my father. She lived here for about a year.
Okay, okay.
Sally lived here for a little while.
And who was, okay, there was a girl that was murdered by miners by the nearby creek.
By the creek, she was 7 or 8. There's two now psychics that have said that. Two different. Don't know each other, weren't here at the same. Yours did, the one that came that day. She said there was a little girl, and then another one another time had said the same thing. Down by the creek.
Oh.
I have never seen her.
And also, too, I brought over Mike Melots, and he was a warden with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And that was his very first ghost hunt, and he just loved it. And he was using the Connect, and he saw stick figures hiding behind the trees.
I'm sure we have some Native American stuff out here. I know when they did the cemetery across the street, they found some bones. So they had to put a stop on the whole thing for a while. So, and I believe they were Native American. They were human. But they were here. So they say they bury them on the highest part of the area, which would be where our home is. So
A lot of people are buried in the roads. people don't realize, but yeah, especially during the gold rush in that time period, is the safest place to bury someone you cared about was in the middle of the road, because the wagons and they know that would keep coming by would just pack it down. You know, California is very dry, not like the East Coast where everything was a big muddy mess. So you have to keep the animals from digging them up. They buried a lot of people in the roads out there, so that's why there's so many sightings of ghosts along the roads. Um, yeah, I find the history of California fascinating, especially what happened with the Native Americans because of the gold rush and everything else. People don't realize the largest massacre or, you know, mass killing of Native Americans in American history was in the Sacramento Valley. And it was like over 100,000 of them in a 10-year period of time, right? You know, shortly from the gold rush and afterwards. And there was a bounty, you know, to where you could go get a $5 gold piece for an Indian scalp at the Capitol building. People ever always, all the movies from the 50s and 60s they depict Native Americans scalping cowboys. It was the exact opposite. It was the cowboys that would scalp the Native Americans, and you would collect a bounty for it. And then England really had a penchant for Native American scalps, so much so that there was a couple of newspaper articles back then saying that the walls of London were covered with Native American scalps. It was like the thing to have was a buffalo eye and a Native American scalp hanging on your wall if you lived in London. So creepy stuff.
Kathy, Phil did a documentary on Sacramento history, and it was shown on PBS for a whole year, I believe.
2 years.
And yeah, if you ever have a chance, you should watch it. You'll be very surprised.
What's it called?
There's two of them. The one about the history with the roads that I found out was called Death of Del Paso, and it was about Del Paso Boulevard, which was the original Golden Road that went out to the minefields and back. That's where I found out that, you know, so many people were buried in the roads. And that was about the development and then the decline of North Sacramento. The other one I did, the one that went for PBS for 2 years, was called Made in the Shade, which was about the history of Sacramento's urban forest, which is the largest urban forest in the United States and the third largest urban forest in the world. That's trees per capita, you know, planted by humans. The people don't realize that when the cowboys, or not even the cowboys, because first people that got to Sacramento came by boat. And when they got there, the first thing they did was see these beautiful oak trees like the blue oak on your property, and they chopped them down and made boats out of them, or houses, or just, you know, used them for firewood. And then when that first summer hit, they all roasted because they had no shade. And from that point on, the people, you know, who inhabited Sacramento started planting with a frenzy. So much so that there's more different species from around the world of trees in Sacramento than any other place in the United States. I think over 250 different species just in the downtown area alone, that were planted by humans. So
Do you know the Native Americans would bend the trees that pointed to the water for
yes.
other times? And so we have a couple of those.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh, few oaks they've gone up and then they're pointing to the water.
Blue oaks are amazing because they take forever to grow. They're like the slowest growing of the oak species, and if you water them in the summertime, you can actually kill them.
Yeah, we had one huge, hundreds-of-year-old, was a vineyard right next to it, and
So, Kathy, what's your next major move? Do you want to write a book? You want to do a new series, more investigations? What are you thinking about next?
I would love to do more investigations. I've learned how to leave the ghost there and not bring him home.
Oh, so you've been worried about the attachments, huh? Understandably.
Yeah, it can happen. It did. So yeah.
They just love you.
But I would love to do more investigations.
There's you're talking about trees and ghosts and everything else. In Elk Grove, we have Laguna Creek wetlands, and you see in certain areas of the wetlands clumps of eucalyptus trees. Well, those eucalyptus trees were brought over from Australia, and the way they grow, they're very good in shielding the wind. So the caravans would actually park by these clumps of eucalyptus trees for protection from the wind. And some of those caravans, that's when they had this outbreak, cholera or Phil, cholera. Yeah, there we go, cholera, and they would park at the vans, and that's how Laguna Creek wetlands became haunted, because some of those people died at the wetlands, and people claim that they hear a little girl sobbing and crying in the wetlands.
That's
You
where we
know,
got that weird EVP, Paul. We got that place. I can attest. You can it. You get EVPs outdoors and they're weird. That's the weirdest EVPs I've dealt with.
That's right, Zandy. You went with me on one of the cases.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also too, Dogman was sighted in the wetlands. Dogman was also too sighted in Sacramento, 200 yards from the Capitol back in the 1930s or whatever. You can actually Google it and find it. But yeah, Dogman was sighted in Laguna Creek wetlands and in Sacramento.
in the rail yards.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
They're both
When you were talking about eucalyptus, they brought them over as windbreaks, like you said. They also brought them over because they thought they would be a fast growing timber that they could sell, for furniture and everything else. Didn't work out. They imported the wrong type of eucalyptus trees, so they weren't really good for anything except
Oh
the
wow.
smell and the windbreak. But they also made a mistake of planting them all around the rail yards because the smell was supposed to help out with the way the stink around the where they actually built the railroads, the cars and everything that is. But what they didn't realize is that eucalyptus, like pine trees, are loaded with sap, and if you put a lot of heat next to them, they explode like bombs. And so they had quite a few exploding eucalyptus in
Dang.
Sacramento before they decided to remove them and get them away from the rail yards.
And they make great smudge ones. Um, yeah, because they the leaves itself, it has some type of medicine. I don't know exactly what it is. I have to look it up. But also too, a lot of the people, they actually make smudge ones out of eucalyptus leaves.
Was there a hanging tree in Lincoln? I know there was one in North Sacramento. I think the Slobies property actually is where the tree was located. But I was just wondering in Lincoln if there was a hanging tree.
I want to say there is one on McCorkle, which is it? But like East Lincoln, been a long one. I want to say there is one in Lincoln, and I believe it's on Fort. Um,
There was I'm sorry, say that again.
oh no, it's okay. I'm gonna say it's not too far from here, and it's on McCourtney. It would be near where the town was. It's on the end of our right. McCourtney, Gladding and McCourtney run parallel to each other, and there's a road Fleming that runs between them that goes from one to the other, right at dead ends. Gladding and then it.
Isn't there a hanging tree by Auburn, California?
Tom?
There's one in every town back then.
Yeah, there's a hanging tree in Auburn, California.
Yeah, there was a famous rifle duel at the one in North Sacramento. It's Gilligan from Gilligan's Island, Bob Denver.
Yeah.
His great grandfather was the guy who they named Denver, Colorado after, and
Oh wow.
he essentially murdered a guy in North Sacramento over some words that were published against a friend of his in one of the early Sacramento newspapers. And so they did a duel at like 50 paces with rifles, which I mean, how can you miss at that short distance with rifles? And
Right,
Denver
yeah.
was a soldier with quite a bit of experience, so he was dead. It was basically murder. The guy he shot was some type of dandy who didn't even know how to hold a gun. But yeah. some interesting stuff I came across in my documentary days.
Interesting. Very.
Well, sorry for
Kathy,
hijacking about trees. Sorry, Santine.
oh, no, that's cool. That was interesting. I was gonna think, Kathy, does Kyle want to go on any investigations with you, or is he like not just doesn't want to be, he's just more scared of it?
Steve? Is that what you asked? If Steve wants to?
Oh, Kyle.
Oh, well, I don't know if Kyle would. Kyle is very sensitive. He sees auras. When he was a kid, he would tell me he sees colors around people in class. And he asked me,
Wow.
is that weird? I'm like, no. So I think he has like a very he's very intuitive and very sensitive to those things. And I think
Okay.
that's why I don't know if he would. I don't know. Tyler would, my oldest, but Kyle, he might, but he doesn't like. He's terrified of anything like that. Like I said, he won't even sleep in his room. He sleeps on a couch.
No scary
this-
movies for him.
No, in fact, when they were young, scary movies, he had to go in the other room. He's just does not like any of that stuff. So, my youngest just bought a house out towards the Payne Lake, Olivehurst, and two
Okay.
people. So they're not moved in yet. So we were going to do a blessing on the house. I was going to do like a blessing and a clearing to kind of see if we cleared it. But so I don't know if they're going to end up with some activity or not. None yet, but they bought it. They're renovating it right now. It might be a investigation. Hopefully one day. Well, maybe not. Hopefully.
Hey, Kathy, what was that abandoned house that we investigated? That you guys found some abandoned house? Remember, it was
Yeah,
like
way out there in the sticks.
by the Vacaville. It's close to Vacaville.
Remember? Yeah.
It was an
Got
old
EVPs
shack.
there.
Nobody lived there.
Yeah.
We were taking pictures of ghosts in the windows.
We got EVPs too. Yeah.
We thought someone had lived there, so we were going to someone's house. We thought, and when we got there, it was it was empty.
Yeah, it was empty.
There. Yeah.
Did you go
Yeah,
into Did you go into the home or just
Yeah.
film
Yeah.
it? Wow.
Climb
You
through
should
the
go back then.
fence. Yeah. Yes. Was that out back of it though? I thought that was more.
Oh,
Well,
where was that? Where was that? I don't know. Like,
do you remember that house?
I do.
It was kind of crazy. I'm sure by now it's probably torn down. That thing was completely. There was no renovating.
That was fun the way you came up on it, like the scene and how it felt. I mean, it just felt like, you're gonna do a real investigation there,
Yeah. No one was there. We were like, huh. So yeah, we went through the gate, went in there, and I don't know if did we find that much stuff in there? I don't think we did.
EVPs I just remember getting some of those outside, but we were walking around, everybody was Chris. I mean, we didn't find a whole lot, I don't think, but Paul said he, got the ghost in the window, but I know we did get some EVPs for sure. But then with the EVPs, you had to wonder if it was somebody in the distance talking or so.
Yeah, it was hard to know because we had a few people, some were down, some climbed up into the second level, which was kind of dangerous.
Right. Dangerous, yeah. Danger zone.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Debbie's
Yeah,
house. Remember you did hers in her barn. Do you remember that thing?
Oh, that's right. That's right. The barn. Yeah. And
actually, I think they got a picture right as she screamed, and it had grabbed the blackbird. In the picture, you could see this big black dark thing behind her. That was, and I was sitting right next to her. So Debbie's house was pretty haunted. She had something in her barn that we definitely not nice. In fact, her husband died in that barn of a heart attack about a year ago.
Okay, when we went to one time, we went to Debbie Bauman's ranch,
There,
and there was all these bikers over there. Who were the bikers?
well, her husband was he was a biker, um, and probably some of his friends. He passed away in that barn about a year ago.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Um, and the bikers were actually a famous group. Yeah, no, I was trying to think of the name of it.
Hell's Angels,
No, it wasn't Hell's. No, it wasn't Hell's Angels. Um,
Booze Fighters.
Say that.
Booze Fighters.
They were
They
the
were
Booze
the Booze
Fighters.
Fighters. Yeah,
The dragon.
yeah. And it's like I felt a little bit uncomfortable.
Bikers are cool. We used to own a motorcycle shop.
Well, there was one of my investigators kept on trying to take pictures of them, and this one biker guy, he goes, "I want you to stop taking pictures of me." And she did it again. I go, "Oh my God!" Yes,
You remember that Marlon Brando movie? Was it The Wild One or something like that?
yeah.
Those were the Booze Fighters. That's how old that club is.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. And it was so funny. That was one investigation I wanted to get the hell out of there quick.
Yeah. He did get a lot of
I
stuff
said,
done.
I'm going to wind up being a ghost.
The investigation is over.
Oh yeah, it was done. It was done. I was out of there.
Um,
Yeah,
Debbie
you
was
saw-
really good at getting you in places where people didn't want you to investigate.
Oh yeah.
She had a way of becoming friends and then getting permission, and they'd just give her the keys if it was, and they'd leave. She was she was really good at that. If there was people who was like, no, we don't do investigations. And within a week, they were giving her the keys to the house to do an investigation. And
That's a gift.
Remember we did the bar? There was a bar in some town. I forget what the bar was.
Was it
Yeah.
the Valencia Club?
Yeah, Valencia Club.
I just saw a show on that. It was the Valencia Club, and it was a haunted show, and it had to do with it. It is haunted. That one's not far from Lincoln. It's in Loomis area.
Yeah.
Castle, Loomis. Yeah, that's a biker bar.
Yeah. I know. She was always taking me to biker places. I said, you want to see me get killed here, But Jesus
That's
Christ.
the biker bar.
Yeah. I actually have two cousins who are Hell's Angels, and one of them was a San Jose Gypsy Joker, but he's now a Hell's Angel, and the other one's a Hell's Angel. It's like, oh my God, I'll never be a Hell's Angel.
Yeah, but if they're your friend, we have a couple friends that are, and one of them, if there was ever anything we needed, they can be the most loyal people, but you don't want to mess with them.
Hey, I saw what they did at Altamont.
Jesus.
That's monster.
That's I would never ask that. But
The Rolling Stones' brilliant idea. Let's hire a biker gang to be our security at a concert.
Oh yeah.
Ended up getting the guy killed.
Oh my God.
that's the one thing about bikers, though. People don't want to mess with them.
Yeah.
Well, you fight one, you got to fight all of them.
Yeah. That's what happened to that Thomas Hunter or whatever.
Hunter Thompson.
Yeah, Hunter Thompson. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, that's what was his name? Gonzo.
Yeah, Gonzo. Yep.
Well, we've passed the 10 o'clock mark. I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your stories with us. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks.
And I'll let Paul say his thank yous. I'm sure he's got a lot of them.
Kathy, thank you so much. It was so great having you here, hearing those stories. It brought back memories. We had some good times. So thank you for being part of this show. And when it is done and published, I will make sure that you get the link. And this is also too registered with IMDb. So, and I'll take it and let Zandine take over. I'll say goodbye
Yeah,
to you.
yeah, Kathy, I'd like to say good night and thank you. And the audience should know that all these answers we got are like just like they're the best because they're the most honest. So that's what I enjoy. And thank you.
Thank you. It was good to see you.
And
Yeah, good to see you. Tell Steve I said hello.
Zandine, was it honest too about the Bush Fighters?
Hey, hey,
He
man.
came
Well,
in and said hi.
hey,
Oh my God.
All right. Thank you again, Kathy. I appreciate
You.
it. It's nice meeting you.
Thank you, Chappie.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.
good
Okay.
night.
All right, guys.